to give us
good morning, everyone. I know my name is hard to pronounce, so I'll just say it once. It's Guilherme, Fitzgibbon, but you can call me Fitz for short. I'm the head of trade promotion at the Embassy of Brazil, Nairobi. But I'm on my last weeks here in Kenya, so I'll be soon going back to Brazil. And thank you, Dr. Maruti, for the opportunity to talk about Brazilian innovation. And to start, I'd like to go a bit back further in time to the 19th century, actually. When Brazil was still a monarchy, which is something that not everyone remembers, our emperor at the time, Emperor Pedro II, he was a big enthusiast of technology and innovation at that time. He had already ordered the construction of the first telegraph lines from Brazil to Europe. Some of the lines that were used for up to a century. And he was actually the first head of state to use a telephone. When he visited the United States, he spoke directly to Alexander Graham Bell. And the legend says that when he used the telephone, he was so surprised, he said, "Oh my God, it talks." And he was so impressed that he right there on the spot, he ordered Graham Bell to install the first telephone line outside of the United States in Rio de Janeiro to connect his palace to the military headquarters in the city. And decades later, and I don't know if there are any Americans here, but they don't like to hear this, a Brazilian inventor based in France, Alberto Santos Dumont, he created the first airplanes. First with lighter-than-air dirigibles in 1901, and later in 1906, the first heavier-than-air airplane with its own means of propulsion. It was the first modern airplane to take flight, and for us, and also for the French, I believe, he is the father of modern aviation as we know it. And going now to more modern times, maybe some of you have already used electrical showers, electrically heated showers here, the ones you buy over in Jumia. That's a Brazilian invention also. And the last example I want to present is about sugarcane ethanol for combustion engines, which is something that was created in the late 70s in Brazil to counter the second petroleum crisis. And it's something that's being used up to today. We have what we call flex engines. They work both on petrol and sugarcane ethanol. And even more recently, now connecting with what we see in Kenya here, just like the Kenyans, we really like to use digital tools for everything. We've been among the first countries in the world to digitize everything from government services to banking services to payment systems. We order our pizzas online since the late 1990s, and everything that we see today in Brazil has been a sort of the accumulation of a growing cultural change and this sort of openness to innovation since very early, but particularly since the late 80s and the 1990s, with the redemocratization of the country, trade liberalization, banking sector reforms, and growing access to consumer goods and services, including computers, mobile phones, televisions, and all that. This doesn't come from nothing. For us, the government policies around this are very complex. We have a very active network of installations for researchers, companies, to work their innovations. We have laboratories, we have our own network of satellites for research, especially in the Amazon. We have a base in Antarctica of our own. And recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, we opened our own particle accelerator, the Sirius accelerator, which is based in Campinas, in the southeast of Brazil. And we know that it's a scientific infrastructure network that can and should be expanded, but it's already far better than what we have for many years now. And in 2020, we adopted a national policy for innovation, which aims, I'll read this out here. We have 4 objectives for Brazilian innovation. And this is something that is spread out among the government, among academia, and private sector innovators as well. We want to stimulate research, development, and innovation by companies, ICT, and non-profit and private entities. We want to promote coordination and alignment of public policy instruments and programs with these innovations. We would like to foster the transformation of knowledge into innovation and develop the human capital needed to keep that up. This has been something that's been going on with very intense activity from the private sector in Brazil. And our role in the government is mostly to help distribute that and make that knowledge available to everyone. This has created in Brazil a very unique ecosystem for innovators, and one I believe that could be a very good example for Kenyan and African entrepreneurs. Because as big as Brazil is, we are twice as big as the European Union, for example, in terms of area, although we have half the population. But it is very, very diverse. We have environments that mimic the Kenyan system with the semi-arid rainforests. We have hills. We have obviously the Amazon. And over the years, what governments have tried to do is gather all this diversity from researchers and innovators, and strengthen and maintain links between academia and the private sector. So to make sure that innovators have a safe space for which to work their innovations, to make the research, and in the event that they go abroad, that this knowledge can also be brought back to Brazil in one way. I'll get back to that in a minute. And specifically regarding intellectual property, we have been trying to provide incentives for Brazilian inventors to patent their inventions, at least in Brazil. The thing is, we have a more restrictive legislation for patenting than, for example, the United States has. We can patent new designs, original designs, or original creations, or original industrial designs, but we cannot patent methods like the Americans do. So this leads to a very different way of promoting innovation. It's sometimes harder for Brazilian innovators to obtain patents for what they do, but it doesn't mean that they cannot make money with it. And for the third question, on how to catalyze innovation commercialization in Brazil, I'm going to change the answer a bit and tell you how we actually make that international. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs currently has a program. It's called the Innovation Diplomacy Program, or PDI for short, that was created in 2017, and it's destined to centralize, coordinate, and organize the activities of technological and innovation promotion made by all through Brazilian embassies and consulates all over the world. We have about 220 postings everywhere. And the idea is to promote Brazil and brand Brazil as an innovator nation, to foster connections and engagements between Brazilian and foreign partners, and connect actors from the Brazilian innovation ecosystem, not just startups, but also investors to ecosystems abroad, to help with their internationalizations. What happens in Brazil is, because we are such a big country and so diverse, whatever idea you have, you probably have a market to try to market it to. But also because of that, when they establish themselves, it is natural for these companies to want to expand to other countries. Because it's because we have, for example, I'm going to give an example for fintechs, which is what we are particularly strong on. Maybe you've heard of Nubank, which is one of the first and largest new fintechs or bank technologies. They are a fully homegrown Brazilian unicorn. They pretty much revolutionized the banking system in Brazil, which was very heavily concentrated around very big, very large national banks and some international ones. And they led to several changes in regulation that enabled more payment systems and more new digital banks to grow in Brazil. And because of that, we have also tried to help them become international. So they're now becoming international in Latin America. They're trying to gain, they have already had an IPO at NASDAQ in New York, and they are slowly branching out to outside Latin America. And there, we have other 30 unicorns in Brazil that are entirely homegrown, and it entirely invested with Brazilian money. So it's a very huge market. And the PDI's role is mainly to help them expand it internationally. As for funding, we have it's a complex system because we have 3 levels of government. We have federal, state, and local governments, and everyone has a hand or a say in the process of financing. I'm going to talk mostly about the federal government. We have 2 types of federal grants for either researchers that are still in university or those that are already out of university. And we also have BNDES, which is the Brazilian Economic and Social Development Bank. It is a huge bank for financing larger projects, and they are have started for the past 6 or 7 years to also finance startups when they see that there's a large potential for larger scale operations, either in Brazil or abroad. And state governments also have, the 27 states of Brazil, they also have their own state foundations for financing research today. Each one has their own rules, so I won't go into detail here, but they also help sort of make this smaller projects also have their own financing. We estimate that there are about 22,000 startups active in Brazil right now, with about $5.2 billion invested in them from several sources. We also host 55 technology parks, 420 incubators and accelerators, 172 venture funds, and more than 7,500 angel investors, individuals. So mainly these investments have been to agri-tech, fintech, health tech, food tech, and property tech, real estate management. Those are the main sectors in which we have invested over the years. And we have several very good examples of people which we are trying to do. We are trying at least to bring some of these startups to also to get to know the Kenyan ecosystem, maybe invest in them, enter the market, or bring Kenyan startups into Brazil so that they can do their own thing there. And it's a work in progress. I hope to have better news for that next time. And just to conclude, what we think that the university can borrow from our country's journey. If you look at Brazil and Kenya, despite the very different sizes, very different history, right now we have very, very, very similar challenges. We have challenges in agriculture, to combat droughts, food security, bank systems, renewable energy sources, urbanization, housing, public transport, you name it. Whatever challenges Kenya has, it is very likely that Brazil has in one way or another, either throughout the entire country or in the specific region. And if I have to give one single piece of free advice, it will be for innovators to keep a very tight dialogue with the government and with academia. Because and I believe the university can provide a very good, qualified channel for that, a qualified forum like the Nairobi Innovation Week, especially given specifically the University of Nairobi's influence in Kenyan history. And it is our belief that this integration between academia, government, and innovators is key to creating the best environment possible that will keep innovation going for many years to come. And I hope that we from the Alves of Brazil have the chance to share more experiences, more specific experience with whoever is interested in knowing about them, and also from the University of Nairobi, so that Kenyan innovators may partner with Brazilian innovation and make their innovation worthwhile. And I think that's it for now. I'll be happy to take questions later.
Okay.